Hello, I'm Philip Stoten. I'm here at the SCOOPstudio at Productronica 2017. I'm joined by three gentlemen to discuss the topic of solder paste printing. We have Karthik from Indium, we have Nico from MyCronic, and we have Jens from ASM. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me. Let's start by just setting the scene. Give me a kind of overview of what you think is currently challenging and interesting in the area of solder paste technology.
I think I'll, specific to this discussion, linking solder paste technology with screen printing, the challenges are fascinating, and I'll take two verticals. One is mobile, and the other one is automotive. For years, automotive, printing was kind of a given, but just given the challenges with, miniaturization as well as big boards, step stencils, as well as the reliability aspects, it's become a lot more challenging. And in the same token, if you look at mobile technology, for years it was on Type 3. For the last 4 or 5 years, it's been on Type 4 powder. And now we're talking about, Type 5, Type 5.5, and Type 6. And all of that's dictated by apertures, that go under the sub 200 micron number and corresponding area ratios of 0.5 and below. So, it's absolutely critical to get a good transfer, but more importantly, a repeatable print transfer with a low deviation, typically under 10%. And that's where the flux as a secret sauce in the paste makes a difference and plays a critical role in the screen printing process.
Okay. And Nico, from your point of view, you've got various different technologies to print. We're constantly challenged by miniaturization. I'm convinced there's no end to that. It seems to go on an aspect ratio, it seems to go on and on. What are you seeing at the moment from your customers, and how are you meeting those challenges?
Well, I think, like you said, miniaturization is a given. Everything is going to go smaller and smaller. They want to put more components in a smaller area. But I think if you look on the printing or jet printing side, I think the challenging part is that people want to have small and bigger components on the same thing. If it's just only small components, then it's typically fine. But that's not the reality. There will be some shieldings, or there will be some kind of parts that need more solder. And then to pack that into a very dense area, then it becomes very critical or challenging for the technologies that are around today.
Yeah. And Jens, when you look at it from a screen manufacturer and a hardware point of view, is it just miniaturization? What else is challenging?
Yes, of course, the miniaturization is still, I think, the driving factor here. Is really the to find the gap in between the very small components and the big ones. But beside this as well, is also going more into just try to avoid operator interventions from the hardware point of view, just to try to run it. We just talk about this small factory thing, which is also, I think, especially for the printer, a challenge, because you have to change the stencils and that kind of stuff. So that's definitely also beside the technology in the printing. This is also something where we just really work on to reduce the amount of operator interventions to the minimum, absolutely minimum.
Yeah, and what about in terms of the stencil design, stencil manufacture? What's changing in that area?
Yeah, I think we see there more is also going more into the direction that we're also looking into more coatings, this kind of stuff, so that we say, okay, we're looking into materials, what can the material performance add, what we can improve here with different or new materials, but also with different coating technologies in order to reduce the amount of cleaning, to get throughput. These are the things which are also a factor which is going more and more on. In order to get the challenges done with throughput and print quality, of course. Yeah.
And Nico, when you look at the inkjet process, obviously it gives you opportunities to print different aperture sizes and different opportunities, but speed becomes then the challenge because it's a serial rather than a parallel process. How is that development going, and how fast and usable in a volume production environment are those machines becoming?
It's when we started, basically, our throughput was very limited. I think we were talking about 20,000 components per hour, which is fine if you do prototypes in very small batches, and that's of course where MyCronic comes from. We have been, or pick and place, or DNA is very flexible, a lot of changeovers and so on. But we have seen that there is more and more demand, like Jens is saying, to get less operator intervention. We have the MyCronic 4.0, we have the 4.0 industry in general, where people want to automate things. And one big benefit of jet printing is that it is software driven, so that there's basically no human intervention. So basically by barcode or by a new Hermes protocol, you can basically change over automatically without any human operator intervention. So that is a really big benefit. But as you mentioned, speed is still a challenge, because I mean screen printing takes about 10-15 seconds regardless of the size of the board. Jet printing, of course, if you have to do 1,000 dots or 1 million dots, it makes a big difference. However, we have over time actually looked into that, and now we have come up with a modular concept that we can put down multiple machines together, and then the software actually looks at as one machine. Okay. So in order to overcome those kind of speed limitations, I mean, here in the booth we have a line which is rated at 100,000 components per hour, which in Europe and US is pretty okay. Yeah. So there are definitely developments going on to bring that to a next level.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you say, it plays very well in that smart factory environment, digital environment, and that's forming an important part of the equation. Do you get involved as a consumables vendor in how that smart factory environment's going to work and how those feedback loops are going to go back to the printer with specific relation to different pastes?
Absolutely. So, Smart 4.0 or Industry 4.0 is a key buzzword, and I'll again take the vertical of automotive, where tracking and closing the loop is critical, and towards that labels and barcoding play a very, very important role. So if you look at what we call the cartridges or the tubes of the future, all these concepts are incorporated. That includes paste characteristics, when they can be used, by when they should be used, when they are taken out, and all of that can be incorporated in the barcode for repeatability, traceability, and the closed loop.
Yeah, and then again, that goes all the way through to the reflow process and how you're informing the reflow oven of the recipe it needs to use.
Yep. So we partner with various equipment manufacturers, because at the end of the day, the material should work for the process and the operator rather than the other way around. So we partner with a lot of our co-suppliers in terms of material characteristics that could be plugged in well in advance, where the process window is optimized from the get-go, and therefore there is right from the first shot it is possible to get your high CPK and not needing to keep going back and forth and wasting time.
Yeah, and wasting boards and having to do rework. Nico, again on that smart factory thing, you're working in various different parts of the line. Just acquired an inspection company, so even more parts of the line. Those feed-forward loops become more and more important for you, yeah?
Yeah, I think it is a demand from both from mobile phone manufacturers, but also from automotive, to have a 0 ppm line. And in order to get to a 0 ppm line, you need to be sure that each and every step in the process has been completed 100%. And in order to do that, you have to have inspection, you have to have verification that the steps are okay. And like you said, it's not enough to have the verification. There needs to be also some feedback loop to make sure that if something is not right, that has been solved as soon as possible, because people don't want to scrap things. Yeah. So I think in that aspect, of course, bringing in an inspection company within the line, I think you see that at other vendors as well. It is important to offer like a full line solution with feedback loops and making sure that you have a 0 ppm production line.
Yeah, and Jens, when you look at it from ASM's point of view, you've had the placement, you acquired the screen print capability, you've then bought out your own SPI, you've got Process Expert. There's a lot there that connects to the printer that aids its better performance.
Exactly, yeah. That's a focus point as well, because the printing process is still the critical process in the production. So for that reason, we are really looking into automation, optimization, using also our expert know-how, which we have collected over a long time with DEC, in order to help customers to really run the line without having too much of process work on it. So the line should run. That's the focus point, and also. We're looking into the technologies to really operate, to reduce the operators to an absolutely minimum, so that you just can operate just from a factory base and not having operator dedicated to the line. That's really something. So this is starting from the process itself, from the print process, going then also including the pick and place machine, also take the AOIs at the end of the line into the loop here, but also looking how we can control and manage the operators to go at the right place at the right time to be there. That's a very important thing, and that's also what we are focusing on and showing also here on the booth, that we really can operate, that we just have a kind of command center where you just know and can control the guys and guide the guys what they have to do on the shop floor in order to really reduce this to an absolutely minimum. And as you mentioned, something like interfaces like Hermes is also something which I think is essential if we talk about smart factory in Industry 4.0, because we need to have intelligent interfaces which giving us information, which are passing them from equipment to equipment. Yeah. And I think this is something where we're looking on, and this is a major focus point where we're going to.
Yeah, that smart factory thing is really important. Last question just for Nico. I'm curious, when you look at the inkjet process and the traditional print process, is there room or is there experimentation in the kind of hybrid area where you can print the majority and then maybe jet the remaining elements?
Absolutely. I think initially when we started, I think we had our main target market was to replace screen printer in the very low to mid-sized volumes. What we have seen over the years that we have been working a lot on those hybrid solutions where people say, hey, we have a challenge here because we have a cavity, or we have to have a lot of more paste on this particular point. And sometimes step stencils might not be possible because of the proximity of the components and so on. So we have already a lot of those hybrid solutions where people screen print, and then where they have the difficulty, say, okay, here we're going to jet some extra paste, or we're going to jet in a cavity. Yeah. So that is available today, and I think in the future, I think you will see more and more of those hybrid solutions, because you have both the combination of the speed and the capability, what makes your line, of course, very flexible.
Yeah, and the idea of a jet head maybe inside a screen printer, picking up the last bits is quite a fascinating model. Gentlemen, thanks very much for your time. Thanks for taking part, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.